I'm Patrick Bynes, ex-basketballer, ex-West Coast rookie, and you're listening to Sporting Legends with Bevo. Come join us.
Patrick Bynes, welcome to Sports Legends with Bevo for the very first time.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
And let's get back to where it all began for you, what your life was like growing up and where you got that passion for wanting to play basketball. And we'll talk about the footy a bit later on.
Yeah, so I was a basketballer growing up. I grew up in Melbourne, Victoria, went to Caulfield Grammar, and pretty much all through my juniors played football, and basketball was the main one I chose. So played Melbourne Tigers, which was my junior club, went through the state system, and then lucky enough to get picked up in the Australian team. So under 17 Australian team, was able to go to Spain and for the World Championships. And yeah, I think we got knocked out in the quarterfinals that year against home nation, which was Spain. And it was a unbelievable experience to get to play against some of the best players in the whole world, really. Many of them now in the NBA. So it was a really, really cool experience. And yeah, basketball was where my heart sort of lied at that point.
And you know, growing up, you mentioned before you played footy and also basketball. Was there an influence in the family? Like, did you have siblings that you played sport against and what have you growing up?
Yeah, me and my brother Jack were big basketball guys, and we went out a fair bit in the backyard. And my dad actually, he coached North Melbourne Giants, so that was an NBL team back in the day. And so I guess that's sort of where my basketball passion came from, and just being around basketball my whole life, it was sort of what I wanted to do. I had a lot of great mentors and a lot of great people on the way to sort of guide me, and yeah, I'm so grateful for that.
You mentioned before you had a brother you played basketball with. I know what you mean because I've got a younger brother as well. And I remember a couple of years ago we played a game of tennis and he didn't talk to me for about 2 or 3 hours because I knocked him off. Was it a bit the same with your brother as well?
Yeah, it was. We had a fair few battles. I even played a fair bit of pool basketball and everything, and that got pretty heated sometimes. A fair few black eyes and a fair few tears that Mum had to sort out after Mum and Dad. So yeah, it always ended that way. It's always seen someone getting a bit upset, but I mean, that's just who we were. We were pretty passionate about it, and yeah, I don't like to lose, and he didn't either.
And you spoke before about the Seaboard and playing for the Melbourne Tigers. Was there ever an ambition to play NBL, and did you get close to playing NBL, Paddy? Yeah,
I mean, it was interesting when I was growing up. It's crazy to think it was only about 5 years ago now, but Seaboard was what NBL 1 is now, and there was no real pathway in terms of once you finish your junior career at under 18 in your state, like the NBL was looking like it was going to go under at some point. So there was no pathway with the NBA from the NBL. It was pretty much you can go to college or, well, you go overseas to go play professional straight away. I wasn't that keen on going to college. I'm a bit of a homeboy. I sort of love Australia and love Melbourne, and I was pretty keen. I was speaking to a few clubs from the NBL, but it just wasn't a really good league back then. Like, it really wasn't. And what Larry Kesselman's done with the NBA now and putting some money into it, and there's so much home talent here, and it's so great to see that, you know, people are finally getting these pathways now.
And going from basketball to footy, you mentioned it before, you played both sports. What made you decide to transition from basketball to footy, and how'd you find that transition? Yeah,
it was a bit of a tough one. I mean, I think the hardest bit was just the endurance running, because you probably run 15 Ks in a game of footy, but basketball, it's more just sort of stop, start, sprint stuff. Whereas footy, you know, it's longer distance and you're always sort of on your feet and you're not giving 100% all the time. But I guess that was the hardest thing, was actually just getting my body like footy ready, I guess. Like and all the gym work you do is so different compared like professional basketball to AFL. It's just so different. So I guess I had to adjust everything, and the strength and conditioning guys did a lot of work with me, not only with my diet, but I guess just changing what my body looked like. And the transition of that was it was unreal. Looking at photos now, it was crazy to think you can change someone's body in 6 to 12 months like that.
And where did you play footy before getting picked up by West Coast, which we'll speak about in a minute?
So I was East Brighton Vampires, and that was my local club. I went as a category B rookie. So the rules around that were you're not allowed to play an official game. So during sort of year 11, year 12, I'd do a couple training sessions, but like you can train with them, but you just can't play a game. So, I mean, I felt like I was throwing right during training, but it's so different in a game situation. And yeah, I got a bit of a shock once you stepped into a game. Once I was actually signed, it was interesting. Definitely was.
Well, so when you got picked up by West Coast, you'd actually only played sort of a minimal amount of footy with East Brighton. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and just training with Corporal Grammar football team, like my school team.
Wow.
So you can do match simulation, but that's I guess AFL clubs are sort of taking a punt on them because, yeah, they've actually never played an official game of football like full time or anything like that. It's all sort of match simulation at wherever they've sort of grown up, really, at the best, and more just individual training. So if you find a good category B rookie, the recruiter's done a pretty good job. That's
unbelievable. So let's talk about arriving at West Coast, because they've just won the flag in 2018. You got picked up as a category B rookie, as you mentioned. What was it like rocking up to the West Coast Eagles, a club that had just won a flag, who are on such a high? That must have been a pretty amazing feeling for you, knowing that you'd just been signed up to this club.
It was. And I got to go to the celebrations and attend the grand final with the team, and it was unreal. It was tough because I guess those guys have just come off a flag, and a lot of guys missed out on that as well. Like, they're so hungry for more. They expect so much. And for me, coming from a different background, like, I gave my best, but those guys are hardened footy players that have been in the system for over 10 years. And it was a big step. And yeah, I'm really grateful I got to do that. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty confronting at times, for sure.
And it must have been pretty excited. Who are the sort of people that you rang and told first when you found out you'd been picked up by West Coast?
Yeah, definitely. Like all my friends, and of course my family and my brother. It was a bit of a slow process. I got a few clubs sort of asking around, and one club hears about you, then a lot of clubs pick up. That's usually how it works. And of course it spreads pretty quick. But yeah, West Coast felt like a pretty good fit, and I really like WA, the lifestyle. It's a bit warmer than where I am in Melbourne at the moment. Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't have to wear a puffer every day over there, but I sort of love the lifestyle and the beach and everything like that. So I was pretty happy to go over there and get a change of scenery from where I was. And yeah, I loved it. I really did.
And you played WAFL footy. We'll talk about the head clash in a moment, but did you get close to playing in the leg side with West Coast? Were you ever emergency or anything like that?
I was pretty far off. I'll admit that. I wasn't some superstar, but I mean, I was trying my best, and it's a slow build, especially for a category B rookie. Like, you got to build up. You're pretty much starting from someone who hasn't played footy at all, but being in that environment with the best coaches, best physical staff, mentors, everything, like, you pick it up really quick. But that was like what I was saying before, is those guys are hardened, footballers that have just come off a premiership, and they're the best players in the whole country and best players in the whole state. So it was a big step, for sure. It was a big step.
And the WAFL, unfortunately, you copped a pretty heavy knock. Tell us about that incident, and then obviously afterwards, everything that happened, because you went through some horrific injuries, Paddy.
Yeah, it was a WAFL game sort of towards the end of the year. I'd come back from a hernia, so it was a really slow build back. And I remember just copping a hit in the head. It was sort of my neck, but I think we were already down in numbers, and you just play out the game. Like, I was already sort of on the borderline of getting a contract for the next year, so the last thing you want to do is sit out any more games. And I just played out the game, and I reported it to injury clinic the next morning, but I just woke up in so much pain, and I genuinely thought, like, I just slept on my neck bad and whatever it is. And yeah, I guess I really struggled from that point on. And at the end of the year, things didn't go my way, unfortunately. But I sort of knew, like, it wasn't at that stage. So yeah, it was a lot more serious than what I first imagined it to be.
And afterwards, you've been through something like 16 to 17 surgeries. Explain more about that and the injuries that you went through.
Yeah, so I've had 17 spinal surgeries. So pretty much from the top of my neck all the way down to, I guess, my top of my back, middle of my back, from nerve burnings to my biggest one was a spinal fusion, which is where they put a cage and discs in your neck. And that was a pretty full-on surgery. It's about a 12-month recovery. And spent a lot of time in hospital. And during that COVID period, it was tough not having visitors. And you spent a lot of time sort of by yourself. But I'm just glad, like I can get up and go do stuff now. Like that's, like I've got a smile on my face. I didn't have a smile for so long. So I'm glad I can get out and do the stuff I want to do now.
And during those dark times, I sort of hope you're happy for me to mention this, but you were suicidal and you went through some really tough times mentally, which is quite understandable. But tell us about that and who sort of got you through those difficult times, Paddy.
Yeah, it was. It was a really, really tough period in my life. And the hardest bit, I guess, was going from a full-time athlete as my job, literally going to the club every day and working on my body, and to pretty much not being able to leave my room. It was really, really hard. And to be in excruciating pain every day, like lying in bed and not being able to move, it was so hard. And I probably annoyed a lot of people on the way in terms of all my mates and everything. I was speaking to them heaps because I couldn't do anything else. And I'm so grateful that, I'm here to sort of tell the tale, and I've got my family and my friends and everyone that sort of helped me along the way. There's been so many people, and I've had there's been so many mentors that I've had, and, I can't thank them enough. I'm so lucky.
Oh, it's great to see that you're sort of happy and you're okay. How did you actually turn things around from those really dark times? Yeah,
I was sort of a really goal-oriented person, and I guess just setting like the smallest goals. And like for me, it sounds so stupid, but it was literally just going for a walk around the block. Like that's how much pain I was in, and getting up and making my bed, and it affected everything. Like the medication I was on, it was the strongest stuff you can take. I couldn't go downstairs and speak to people because I was slurring my words. I was on so much stuff to just try and get myself out of pain. And unfortunately, that's how much pain I was in. I literally had to go and resort to that stuff. But I guess just setting small goals and achieving them and having those small wins just sort of got me, to the bigger picture and the next step, really.
And what are you up to these days now?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm pretty close to being able to work. The last sort of few months I've been just trying to work on my body and been getting all the treatment I need and seeing the best sort of physios and osteos and that's what I sort of want. I want to be able to get myself to a stage where I can get back in the workforce and I can pick up things again, because I feel like I've got my life back to some degree. I just want to get that next step and, be able to, live like a normal person, really.
Because outside of footy, have you done any study or anything like that in the past, Patrick, or?
Yeah, I was actually doing a Bachelor of Business, so I'm still continuing that off. But I guess the hardest thing was my uni was the only thing sort of keeping me sane at that point. And I had to drop out of uni because I couldn't sit at a desk and I couldn't sit on a chair to complete that study. And I remember, I didn't speak about it on the couch, but I did one of my exams speaking through Siri on my phone because I was in that much pain. I couldn't sit up. I was literally lying in bed. And
wow.
Yeah, it was really, really difficult. And so I had to put that aside to just, I wasn't learning anything, and I was getting a lot of help from people. And so I guess now I'm in a position where I can finish that off and hopefully, get that degree and sort of decide what I want to do next.
So might look down would you look down the sports management side of things, being a sport passionate person you are?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, I was sort of interested in real estate as well, and something to do with, getting out and sort of speaking to people, and that's sort of what I feel like I can do and understand people, and sort of something like that. I've spoken to a lot of people, I guess, recently, and just wanting to hear my story, and sort of got a bit of a passion for sort of, sharing stories, I guess, and helping people where I can.
We'd have you over in Adelaide, mate, if you want to do some guest speaking over here.
Yeah, I've got to get over there. I think I need a holiday. Get out of this weather.
Get you plenty of sportsman's events over here. And in terms of sport itself, are you able to play sport again, Paddy, or is it sort of still a fair way off with your recovery?
Yeah, I guess like I can do it. Like I wouldn't be able to play footy. There's no chance, but I sort of sometimes go have a shoot at the basketball and all that. I'm pretty sore the next day, but I don't mind that because I'm sort of happy. I can deal with that pain now, and I've got really good people working around me to help me with that. I sort of pay the price the next day. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, like I've been in a really good space since, probably the last six to 8 months. And that's what keeps me happy. So I'm going to keep doing it, and I'll deal with that stuff later on when it happens.
And I know on the couch, you were talking about how you're still going through situations where, you know, you're out of pocket, and obviously it's been a horrific situation that you've been through. And have you been reaching out to West Coast, and have they sort of reached out to you as well? And in terms of providing financial support, how's that all going? Because, no doubt would have cost you a lot of money, all these surgeries and what have you.
Yeah, so the club were like pretty helpful at the start in terms of looking after those bills, but there comes a point where you hit a certain amount of point in time and you're covered on your own now. The PA, they're pretty restricted in what they can and can't cover you. So everything now, sort of I pay out of my own pocket, physios and osteos and gym, like that's all out of my own pocket. And I'm fine with doing that because I just want to get myself back to a stage where I can go out and do stuff. So I don't mind doing that, and sort of got to an agreement with the insurance fund, and we're still working with the AFL and sort of the AFL compensation, like work safe or like work cover that will be able to support me for my life, because that's one thing is that AFL players can't get, there's no income protection, there's no work cover. So once you're injured, there's no sort of safety net or protection in terms of financial support.
See, that's something they really need to look at, especially with all these players getting side effects from concussions and what have you from their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the longer it goes on, the more advanced we get in our research and the more we're going to find out about this stuff. But everything neuro-related, even from your brain, but also to your spinal cord, it really does affect everything. And like concussion's a tough one, but also just body injuries in general. Like there are plenty of players who have leg injuries that can't walk now, and you know that affects their whole life, and they've got families and everything they want to go do stuff with that they can't do. So it's an important one, and I think the AFL are doing stuff on it now, and they're working with it, but putting something in place that actually supports those athletes for their whole lives, because it's such a brutal sport. It's the only sport that has 360-degree contact, no protective gear, and you see those videos of those American athletes watching it, and they can't believe what we put our bodies through, and they cringe. They really do. And we got to do a bit more to protect athletes in Australia, especially AFL.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I never played at the highest level, but I've copped some massive hits before playing, country footy and what have you, even over there in Melbourne. I remember running back into a pack and got crunched by a 120-kilo teammate of mine. So I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and those WAFL levels and country footy and local leagues, like you learn how to hit in the AFL and you learn how to brace contact. Those leagues are, if not tougher than the AFL. So I can feel you on that for sure.
And looking back at your career from more of a positive perspective, Paddy, you mentioned before you played for Australia at a junior level, but what else have been some of your sporting highlights through your career? Yeah,
I guess sort of the state team, all the way through the state team, like winning a national championship. I was a captain of that under 18s, and like I said, playing against the top athletes in Australia, and then just going through that system. Like I had Chris Anstey as my coach through basketball and corporal grammar, and he helped me a lot all the way through. And like the Melbourne Tigers as well. There's been so many top people go through there that help with your development as a person and as a basketballer. But I didn't achieve much in footy, but I got to meet like a lot of great people on the way, which I hold really high.
And do you feel as though if you hadn't crossed over to footy and you stayed with basketball, you could have played NBL or maybe even over there at the NBA level?
I think I probably could have had a European career, like sort of in the Euro League and definitely in the NBL. Like I really do believe that. I just wasn't at this, like the league where it is now. It just wasn't anywhere close to, like it just wasn't a pathway then. And the NBL wasn't even being spoken about. I mean, it's interesting because it's so good to see like actual kids and all that coming through, have something to look forward to and work towards, because it was college or, it was nothing. It really was. So, and I got a lot of like mates playing the NBA now. So it's so good to see them doing well and, hearing the stories about what they're doing. It's really, really good.
It's a great attitude, mate. I love it. Also, in terms of outside interests away from sport, are you a talented musician? You play the guitar or anything like that to keep yourself busy?
Oh, I don't. I don't have many. I don't think I have many like outside talents, but I sort of have got a bit of a passion for sort of public speaking. And like I said, there's been so many people who reach out and wanting to hear sort of what I've been through and sort of how I dealt with it. And it's good now that people are actually starting to come out and speak about sort of their mental health and how much it does affect them. Something that I've learned is there's always someone worse off than you are. And, you're walking down the street and you never know what that person's going through, and sort of just have that attitude and, speak to people the way you want to be spoken to. And yeah, my best mate's dad has got MND, and, it's such a tough thing for him to deal with. But, I learned a lot from him, and he gained a lot of perspective for that for sure. Like there's plenty of people out there that have it worse off than I do. So that's sort of what I go by. And if I can, if this helps one person, then I sort of hope that, it's done a good job.
It's such a credit to you after everything you've been through, for you to say that. Well done, Paddy, because you've been through absolute hell and back, and for you to say there's people off worse than you, it's amazing. And you're right, that M&D is just such a horrible thing to see people go through, and hopefully they'll come up with a cure sooner rather than later for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I've no doubt they will. They're doing some great work, and yeah, for sure.
And before we let you go, along the way, you mentioned before you've met some absolute superstar football players and basketball players and what have you, but what celebrities left you starstruck and why?
I reckon probably I did a little American trip with my dad and my brother, and Dad's good friend Brett Brown was coaching it. He used to coach at Philadelphia 76ers, and he was coaching at San Antonio when we went over, and we went sort of to their training facility, into the game, and went to the locker room after. And Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich, Kawhi Leonard all sort of came up and had a chat to us, and we were just standing there in the corner, and they sort of came out of their own night and sort of just made time for us and had a chat to us. And it wasn't sort of like a forced chat. It was just sort of, how you going? And they love Australians. They're pretty multicultural, and could have picked up obviously with Patty Mills and Aaron Baines and all that being over there as well. And, there's so many good people. And like I said, just hearing like athlete to athlete, like you can sort of connect and have those conversations, and like they're the superstars, and they're on big money, and to them, like money doesn't mean anything to them. They can still, treat you like a normal person, really.
No, I love it. Well, I could talk with you all day, and really hoping to get to Melbourne so we can catch up for a beer one day, mate. But thanks so much for sharing your story today, Patrick Bynes. And it's a credit to you and everyone else that's around you that you've been able to get through such a horrible situation and onwards and upwards. And just talking to you today, you speak so well. So I'm sure you've got a very successful career as a public speaker or whatever it is going forward. And thanks again.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. Really appreciate it. Thank you.